That was mile 20 of the Houston Marathon, and this video is a full play-by-play breakdown, exactly how the race unfolded. What was I thinking when it got hard? What was my heart rate at? Just kidding. You don't give a shit about my heart rate. Listen, race recap videos like this, I have always enjoyed from YouTube creators like Kafuzi and Floberg, because it's not just about the splits, it's about the decisions. So if you like honest marathon breakdowns and you don't mind me sitting into some of these shots, likey and subscribey, and let's run through this mile by mile breakdown. Pun intended, pun absolutely intended. In fact, that is probably the most intentional pun I have ever said in my life. Well, okay, that was dramatic. Look, before we get into the mile by mile breakdown, I do want to say I ran the Houston Marathon 2 years ago. For context, at the tail end of a series that I shot on YouTube called Breaking 3, where the goal was to break 3 hours in the marathon. This is now 2 years later. This is take 2. And I'm in much better shape. So the goal, or like the question, wasn't whether or not I would PR, it was by how much would I PR. So my fitness was somewhere between 245 to 250. And if I had to guess, as a certified coach, I would say exactly 247.30. However, making a YouTube series called Breaking 247.30 isn't exactly the sexiest thing. So I decided to run this race by effort. My goal time was actually to run it in... God, I have wanted to do that ever since I watched Eric Floberg of Floberg.runs marathon series, appropriately named No Time. Anyway, what does it mean to run by no time? It means to run by effort. And to ensure that I'm running at the appropriate effort, I just kind of kept my eye on the heart rate, making sure that I didn't go over 173 beats a minute, because that's when I burned the mother down. Making sure I didn't go over 173 beats a minute, because that's when I start to burn matches. Now, this decision to run by no time does come into play, and we will return to it later. All right, you yapper, come on, let's get into it. Race morning started like it does all race mornings, I think, for everybody.
Guys, the anxiety, the energy, the excitement of race day is the worst. It's funny because when I woke up this morning, I had this thought. In America, we do some weird stuff. We have a length of measurement that is a football field. Well, how many football fields across is? Oh, it's about 3.5. And time, something that I've done since I was younger after seeing the movie Titanic, is I measure a 3-hour block of time as a Titanic. So I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, just one more Titanic, and then we get to step in the ring.
Yeah, so in the beginning, couldn't even fathom running a marathon. Now it's really all I want to do. I just want to run this marathon. Corrals, let's talk about it. A corral, it's weird. In Houston, it's a very popular half marathon, and the half marathon and the marathon goes out at the same time. So it's a mixed bag. Like the guy on my right who told me his name, and whose name I immediately forgot upon him telling me his name, was gunning for a sub 3. Guy on my left was running a half marathon. He was going for 71 minutes. It's really fast. We're all next to each other. So I'm just looking for people maybe who are going to be running around my same pace, but I was like, okay, we'll figure it out later. So the gate lifts. Oh my goodness. I just wasted 20 minutes trying to tell you about the layout of these corrals, and I realized I could just put a visual map up for you to see that the A corral is on a side street that feeds into the main chute Congress, where the start line actually is. So the elites go out, the wheelchairs go out. 5 minutes later, they allow us to continue the A corral towards the main chute. This is where there's the last chance porta potties, the porta johns, the quad pissers, or whatever they are, you know, the little things. It's like 4 dudes, 4 corners. Okay, everyone gets a corner. Well, I took a corner because I was going to pee. And as I was peeing, I heard the announcer, the guy on the PA, being like, 1 minute to start. I'm like, okay, I don't have to pee that bad. 30 seconds to start. I'm still peeing. I'm like, maybe I had to hurry this up. So I zip up, not technically, and then I come around the bend and I see as the crowd's moving behind me, a corral is moving while I'm peeing naturally. So then I go and I see the 130 pacer and I circumvent him to get in front, and it's like, you're off, so I grab my phone. I realize I don't have Spotify going, and as I cross the start line, I start my phone and I'm trying to load my playlist, and I'm like unnecessarily frantic for no reason. It was a little chaotic in the beginning. Now, when I crossed the start line, I guess I was only technically 2 seconds behind when the gun went off, but it felt like 30 seconds due to the frantic start and the fact that there was a sea of runners in front of me. So if you ever run Houston, the streets are really wide in the beginning. There are runners from the left all the way to the right. I, of course, wanted to be on the left because I am highly intelligent. It's the humility for me. I'm so smart that I wrote down the tangents. Not smart enough to memorize the tangents, but I definitely wrote them down on my arm, L, L, R, L, R, so I knew which side of the street to be on when the moment arrived. Mile 1, this is the moment. This is the moment I look forward to when I'm in training months and months away from the marathon. I wonder, what's the weather gonna be like? In this case, in Houston, it was perfect. What is my pace going to be at the heart rate and my marathon effort? When I look down at my watch after mile 1, what's it gonna say? Well, it said 6:36. My average heart rate was, I don't know, it was in the low 160s. And for reference, a 245 marathoner has an average 6:17 a mile. A 250 marathoner is 6:29 a mile. In training, most of my marathon splits ended up being in the low to mid 6:20s. So I know 6:36, gotta get down to 6:20s. I've gotta pick it up, gotta start dodging the sea of people in front of me. Okay, so like in mile 2, I'm doing the weave. I'm kind of just hopping into a little pocket here and then moving around people only when necessary. I'm trying to conserve energy, but when the people in front of me are moving slower than, I guess, 6:25, because my second mile was 6:25. My average heart rate for that, in retrospect, looking back at it, was 168 beats a minute. Now, I know I told you we were gonna talk about heart rate, and you don't give a shit about heart rate. But I'm gonna say that I didn't know that my average heart rate was 168 beats a minute, and I'm not really running by heart rate. I'm just using it as guardrails, because here's what happened 2 years ago, and I will be brief with this. When I ran Houston, it went straight to 170, and I held that the entire first half. Then I turned into the headwind in mile 14, and it spiked over 173, and I was like, well, it's sub 3 or bust, so we're just gonna start burning matches. And that's what I did for about 8 miles, and then I started slowing down in the last 5 miles, specifically the last 5K. I did not want that to happen again, so I was really trying to keep it from 165 to 170, and if I saw 170, I would ease up a little bit because splits are looking good and I want to run within myself. Mile 3 was a 6:18. I'm going to tell you the heart rate. I know you don't care. 168 beats a minute. This is when I knew today is going to be a good day. I had a bottle Precision Fuel and Hydration carb mix that I had finished and I tossed it. All right, so mile 4 and mile 5 were 6:22s. The average heart rate was, again, still 168. I'm running at the same effort, but it's all kind of a blur. And if you've ever run a marathon, it's just like there's pockets of it or like stretches where it just kind of feels like a blur. I think somewhere around mile 2 or 3, maybe even mile 3, I saw the 1:15 half marathon pacer come by, and I'm like, what's he doing all the way back here? And then at one point, I saw my guy Lance.
Yeah, Andrew! Midlife, baby! Let's go! Baby, let's go! Ah!
All right, for mile 6 and 7, and no, I'm not gonna do the little juggling thing. I got into an imaginary pissing contest with some runners that had no idea that we were at war. They passed me up and there was just like something inside of me, someone very special. My little inner kiddo, we'll call him Andy. We got past and he was like, oh, hell no. These guys want the smoke. So we overtook them, right? And then I'd have ADD moment and just kind of be running. They would overtake us and then it would be like, oh, what? No, fam, that ain't it. And we would overtake them again. Anyway, mile 6 was a 6:14. Mile 7 was a 6:11. Average heart rate here is 170 beats a minute. And in retrospect, looking at it, that was the effort. That was the effort I think I should have been running after the first 5K the whole entire time. But like the story that I told myself before about all this heart rate stuff kind of took center stage and played a bigger role in this race than I would have liked, because to average 170, I'm going 171, 172, and I'm like, oh, too close to burning a match. Better ease it off. We're only 10K in here. But if I'm being honest, that was true marathon effort. And this is gonna lead me to the first turning point. There's a couple turning points in this race. And the first turning point point was at mile 8 because it was a 6:22, heart rate was around 170, but somewhere in the middle of that mile, I started to dial it back because it began to feel like too much. I started looking at where I was from a macro level in relation to the entire race. This is the opposite of doing the Ryan Hall and running the mile you're in, because I got to think 3 more of these and then I still have 2 more miles to go. It just feels a little overwhelming. What the brain wants to do is protect me. It's gonna wanna slow me down and I'm gonna wanna listen to it because it feels like too much. So what did I do? I got my mind off of the pace and said, Andrew, you know 2 years ago, you can run at 170 for the first half. Just run at 170. You know you could do it. You've already done it. So just run at 170. So that's what I did. For mile 9, I was running the mile I was in and I was being very present until I crossed the timing map for 15K and I looked over and I saw 1 hour and 15 seconds. Now, your boy was an English major. Despite calling himself your boy and being a 45-year-old man, he's also pretty good at math. I started doing the math. 1 hour, 15 seconds, 2 hours, 30 seconds for 30K, then 10K. If I carry the one and I'm doing my math correctly, I'm gonna end up at 2:48:30. Sure, yeah, that tracks. I just have to run another 17 miles. God, no. Then it was just like, again, overwhelming. But then the 2 dudes didn't know we were at war. They passed me and the battle was back on and I was able to like get out of it and just like pass those guys again. All right, then, mile 10, mile 11, mile 12. I don't know, man. It's all blur. I just ran it yesterday, still all blur. Houston, forgettable suburbs. I mean, I ran a 6:23, 6:27, 6:20 heart rate sitting there, 168, 168, 169. Same thing. I'm set. I'm set on marathon effort. I'm just running for 3 miles. Nothing significant is happening. All right, and then that brings us to 13, mile 13, and then to halfway. Mile 13, of note, if you're ever running Houston, it has like the most notable elevation, mount overpass. I don't know what they call it. People kind of make it a big deal. There's only 230 feet of the elevation on the course, and a lot of it comes on the last 5K. But this one bridge is like 43 feet in this mile. You go up it, but you get it back. So I ran a 6:28, heart rate 168. I wasn't burning any matches. Come around, go through halfway, 1:24:12, which is on pace for 2:48:24. And that tracks, that's kind of where I feel like I'm at, smack in the middle of 2:45 to 2:50, not pressing it, feeling good. All right, mile 14 comes around, another sort of critical moment because I turned into the headwind. It's not as bad as it was 2 years ago, but I'm still self-conscious. This narrative is going about not dipping into the burning matches too early. And so mile 14, 15, and 16 were still 620s, like 625, 626, 625. My heart rate's 168. Even it goes down a little bit because I call my wife. She's gonna meet me. My wife is going to meet me at the Goose Station at like mile 18 and hand me a bottle of some carb mix. So I'm trying to make sure my heart rate even went down a little bit more, talking to my best friend as I'm running and just kind of cruising. Okay, now it's time to talk about the second turning point, which was mile 18. And this was the most critical point of anything that ever happened inside of the marathon. There was a large group, and they weren't like a pace group, there was like a run club group that started to overtake me. And I was like, I wanna kind of run behind them initially to block some wind. Selfishly, thanks, fam. And then I realized, oh, these guys are all together, and girls, they're all together, and they're running a little faster than I have previously been running. And I looked at my watch and was like, oh, 6:17. Okay, they're probably on the 250 train. I'll just run with them, right? So I ran with them for a mile. My average pace was 6:12. My average heart rate was 170. My wife calls. I'm getting some water. They're still in front of me. I'm behind. I'm like, she's like, I'm gonna be on the inside instead of the outside. I'm like, all right, sounds good. I was like, I gotta let you go. I'm gonna just like run with these guys for a while. So this was it. Now, it did feel like a lot of effort and a lot of work to even get my body up to 170 beats a minute because I had been running, I've already run 18 miles at this point. And so I know in previous marathons, I had the legs more and I was like, all right, I'm gonna burn it. But for me, I was like, okay, well, I'll just run there and I'll do that. So I see my wife, mile 18, she hands me the pre-mix thing. And I had put water, but not enough water earlier in the day, and it was cold, but now it was warm, and I took 2 sips. It was it was so nasty. I did not approve of it. I like took 2 sips and I chunked it. I was like, I gotta cleanse that out. I saw water, went over, got some water and Gatorade from the station. And then, I look up and the group's still in front of me. They're down a ways, they're in front of me. But then mile 19 was 6:33. I got water at some point. I just remember getting some sort of water or Gatorade and looking up and that pack was kind of gone. But I then seeing 6:33 and being like, oh, whatever, I'm on 250 pace. And then mile 20, I see my guy, Stevie 76.
All right, midlife. Let's go. Let's go. 248, 248, 248.
Oh man, Stevie 76. Thank you, my man, for filming me 2 years ago, this year, and at the Sugar Land Half earlier in the year. I appreciate you capturing me late in every race when my form is flappy and at its finest. Thank you, my man. So that little boost he gave me there, we knocked it down 6:33 down to a 6:26. So I'm seeing it all. He said 248. He's like, 248, 248. And I'm like, great, yeah, that all tracks. 15K marker. I think at the 30K marker around mile 18, it was exactly 2 hours and 30 seconds. It had doubled from 15K. I was on pace at 15K, 21K, 30K. I'm seeing Stevie 76 at mile 20. He's like 248. I'm like, cool. This is all what I expect. All right, so then mile 21 ended up being a 6:39. And in retrospect, I looked at my heart rate. It was like 166 beats a minute. If I was getting like water, just kind of slowing down. But this was like the third turning point. I think to run my best marathon, I would have latched onto those guys at 18, which I did, but I would have stayed with them 19 and went all the way through. And I think this internal thing that happened here at 21 that I did was another big point. I saw 6:39 and I was okay with it. I was like, all right, 248, 6:39. If I run this for 5 miles, that's 40 seconds. So would I run 2:49 maybe instead of a 2:48? I'll probably kick at the end in the last mile. So 2:48 might even still be a thing. So yeah, I got it. Anyway, that was a critical moment. All right, so mile 23, 24, and 25, this is what I was saying earlier, is like you're going under overpasses and stuff where you're starting to get some sort of elevation. I think I ran a 6:36, 6:38. This was 38 feet of elevation in 1 mile and then like 24 in another. And I'm mentally okay with these numbers that I'm seeing. But then mile 25, I see 6:42. I'm like, oh, that's like barely sub 3. I mean, really, it's like 2:55. But it triggered me to like, all right, now's go time. We're gonna pick it up for the last mile and bring it home. I picked up the effort. For the last mile, I ran a 6:22. And then for the last 0.2, is you go down, take a left, and then take a right. You go down a chute, which is really still a kilometer left of running. And I just turned it on and I ran 6 flat pace all the way to the finish, which you're going down, but then it starts to bend around. And then you see the finish line and the time is on the wall. It's kind of hidden. It's not like one of those big red signs above the finish line like you think it's gonna be. It's like, or at least I thought it was gonna be. It was off to the side. And as I'm running, I look over and I see 2:50:17 or something. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I started 30 seconds after everybody. That's why I was passing everyone. So like whatever, that's good. And I'm going through, and granted, I'm not thinking about much. I'm booking it 6 flat for, a K at least. Cross underneath, pause the watch, immediately text my wife. I don't know why, I just didn't look at my watch for my time. I'm like, what'd I run? Then I went to the side and started like gagging. I've never thrown up in a race because of fueling or after, but I have gagged a lot at the end of a race, especially with a big push. And I loved all, and thank you volunteers. Thank you, all the volunteers. There's an older volunteer, and their job is to keep the chute clean. So they go up to everybody who's like yakking and they're like, hey, yak over here, come on, bud. You're fine. And then my wife texts me and she's like 2:50:17. And I was like, what? The gun time? And then I look at my watch and my watch said 2:50, and I was so baffled. I was confused. I was like, but wait, how'd I get the gun time? Because I started behind everyone else, it wasn't like a clean start. But I started it when I crossed the line and I started it when I finished my line, so it must be there. What happened? Right? Like I had no idea that I had not. Running under 250 was even a possibility of not happening. All right, 250.17. This is exactly the time that you run a marathon in when your goal is... Sorry, but you had to know it was coming. You had to know. If you know me, you had to know it was coming. Dare I even say it was predictable? Okay, 250.17. There were two mistakes that I made. Two big mistakes that I made out there. The first one and the biggest one was I didn't go with that group. At mile 19, I ran with them in mile 18, ran a 6:12, and I think the best performance I could have got out of myself on the day is if I would have just rode their coattails down. I think that would have been the best. The second mistake that I made was at mile 21, I settled for that 6:39 or whatever it was. Now, this makes sense. This is the problem. The big ultimate macro mistake is that I ran by no time, right? I said, oh, I don't have time, I'm running by vibes, but I had a time window, which was 2:45 to 2:50. So naturally, what's gonna happen? Human nature, when the marathon gets really hard, okay, decides to drop kick me right in the throat, or, you know, like take a Rocky Balboa speed bag, my nuts, just like, I'm gonna default to the softest option, which was gonna settle for 250. Okay, and so here's the truth about the marathon, the truth about the Houston, what they don't tell you about the Houston Marathon is that my average heart rate for the entire race was 169 beats per minute. And in context, all the other previous marathons that I have run at bigger efforts, my average heart rate is 171 beats to 173 beats a minute. Guys, like, I know my ADD is bad and gets the best of me sometimes, but I forgot to burn the matches. Well, that's not true. The last mile, I certainly burned matches all the way to the end. Anyway, how do I feel about this? You ask, but you don't ask, but I ask for you because I'm the one making this video, and I'm gonna tell you how I feel about it. I'm a mixed bag, okay? So on the positive, I'm grateful. If you watch this channel, you know I'm a gratitude guy. I'm grateful to be able to run, and I'm grateful for the support, for the time. I'm grateful for a 6-minute and 20-second PR. That's huge. If I can't be happy about that, I sound like a complete hat, okay? And even though I didn't give the most maximum effort every ounce of midlife runner, it was still a V-hard effort, okay? I still ran a 250, and I think I got 14th in my age group for the geezers, 45 to 49. So it was still really big effort. However, at the same time, I'm also disappointed on two fronts. The first disappointment, it's not what you think. Not what you think. True to my hipster form, my first disappointment is not that I didn't run 249XX, okay? Because, look, I love the running community, and I love that we all have come together collectively to dismiss the fundamentals of rounding in mathematics, okay? So like, for example, a couple years ago or a few years ago, I ran a 1:23:58 half marathon at the Austin 3M. And afterwards, someone said, oh man, 1:23, that's so awesome. And I was like, that's 2 seconds away from a 1:24. It's a 1:24. They're like, no, 1:23. Look, sub XXXXXX really, to me, only matters if it's a qualifying time, like an OTQ, Chicago Marathon, sort of the Boston Marathon, but not really. Like, as a 40-year-old man, that's like when I started running, and now being 45, as a geezer in the game, actually, okay, in chess, they have a name for this. They have a name for it. It's called adult improver. If you start chess later in life, they call you an adult improver. You're never gonna be a grandmaster, okay? Like, as a runner, I'm never making the Olympics, okay? As a runner, I'm an adult improver. 2:49:54 is the same as 2:50:17. It's a 250. And for the record, if you don't know, like 0 to 60, okay, like 31 and up, you round up, 30 right in half, 29, you go down. Anyway, that's just how I do. You do you, okay, homie? God gave us free will. You round to your heart's desire. I love the support. I love that we support each other like that. But I ran a 250. That wasn't the first disappointment. The first disappointment was that I did not give my all. And I think it was Prefontaine, but I don't know. I'm not like a running historian. I don't know all this stuff. But to probably misquote the out of him, he said to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. Now, what happened out there on the Houston pavement, me running around, could not ever be confused with anything related to a gift. But still, I really feel like I did not get a full expression of myself, and I'm disappointed. That's number one. The second disappointment is that marathons only happen for me ever so often. There are people, marathoners who marathon every single month of the year. They just love to marathon. That ain't me. I do about one a year. Now at periodized, I'm gonna get into some speed. So all of the learnings that I'm taking away from this marathon, I'm not gonna be able to apply until next November or December, or maybe the start of 2027. Those are the two disappointments. Disappointments aside, I want you to take away this, that I am very proud of this effort, okay? I mean, it's a massive PR. And also, I know that I left more out there. And the tension between those two things, with being satisfied with the result and being honest with what is possible, that taught me more than just fitness or pacing. It taught me something much deeper about myself that I learned that I had no idea existed. And that's actually going to be the next video, so subscribe. Come along the cinematic voyage, the cinematic odyssey that is Midlife Runner, and stay tuned for that because that's coming next.